everyone, good afternoon. My name is Niputu Kusumardani Pranama Anjali. This video I would like to continue reading the novel The House at Riverton by Morton. Part 11. Part 11. The title is The Photographs. The Photograph. It is beautiful March morning. The pink gilliflowers beneath my window are in bloom, filling the room with their sweet and heady scent. If I lean close to the window sill and peer down at the garden bed, I can see the outermost petals bright with sun. The peach blossom will be next, then the jasmine. Each year, it is the same, will continue to be the same for years to come. Long after I am here to enjoy them. Eternally fresh, eternally hopeful, always ingenious. I have been thinking about Mother, about the photograph in Lady Violet's scrapbook. For I saw it, a few months after Hannah first mentioned it, that summer by the fountain. It was September of 1916. Mr. Frederick had inherited his father's estate, Lady Violet, in an impeccable show of etiquette, said Nancy. Had vacated Riverton then and taken up residence in the London townhouse, and the Hatforkels had been dispatched indefinitely to help her settle. We were a tiny staff at the time. Nancy was busier than ever in the village, and Alfred, whose leave I'd so anticipate, had been unable at the last to return. It confused us at the time. He was in Britain, sure enough. His letters assured us he wasn't injured. Yet he was to spend his life at a military hospital. Even Mr. Hamilton was unsure what to make of this. He thought long and hard, sat in his pantry pondering Alfred's letter, until eventually he emerged, rubbed his eyes beneath his glasses, and made his announcement. The only explanation was Alfred's involvement in a secret war mission of which he was unable to speak. It seemed a reasonable suggestion, for what else explained the hospital accommodation of a man with no injuries? And so, the matter was closed. Little more was said about it, and in the early autumn of 1916, as leaves dropped and the ground outside began to harden, steeling itself for the days to come, I found myself alone in the Riverton drawing room. I had cleaned and raised the fire and was finishing up dusting. I ran the cloth across the top of the writing desk, traced its rim, then started on the drawer handles, bringing the brass to a gleam. It was a regular duty. Performed its second morning as sure as the following night, and I cannot say what set that day apart. Why that morning, as my fingers reached the left-hand drawer, they slowed, stopped, refused to recommence their cleaning. As if they glimpsed before I did the furtive purpose that flitted on the edge of my thoughts. I sat at a moment, perplexed, unable to move, and I became aware of the sounds around me. The wind outside, leaves hitting the window panes, the mantel clock ticking insistently, counting away the seconds. My breath grown quick with expectations. Fingers trembling, I began to slide it open. Slowly, carefully, acting and observing myself in equal measure. The drawer reached hallway and tightened on its tracks the contents leading to the front. I paused, listened satisfied myself I was still alone. Then I peered inside. There, beneath a pen, sat a pair of gloves, Lady Violet's scrapbook. No time for hesitation. The incriminating drawer already open. Heartbeat pulsing against the bones of my inner ears. I slid the book from the drawer and laid it on the floor. Flicked through the page, photographs, invitation menus, diary entries, scanning for date 1896, 1897, 1898. There it was, the whole photograph of 1899. Its shape familiar, but its proportion different. Two long rows of straight-faced servants complementing the front line of family. Lord and Lady Ashbury, the mayor in his uniform, Mr. Frederick, all so much younger and less tattered, Jemima and an unknown woman I took to be Penelope, Mr. Frederick's late wife, but with swollen stomach. One of those bulges was Hannah, I realized. The other, an ill-fated boy whose blood would one day fail him. A lone child stood at the end of the row near Nanny Brown. A small blond boy, David, full of life and light, blissfully unaware of all the future had in store. I let my gaze shift from his face and onto the rows of staff behind. Mr. Hamilton, Mrs. Townsend, Dudley, my breed cough. I started into the gaze of a young serving maid. There was no mistaking her. Not because she resembled Mother, far from it. Rather, she resembled me. The hair and eyes were darker, but the likeness was uncanny. The same long neck, chin tapered to a dimpled point, brows curved to give a permanent impression of deliberation. Most surprising of all, though far more so than our resemblance, Mother's was smiling. Oh, not as you'd realize unless you know her well. It wasn't a smile of mirth or social greeting. It was like little more than a muscular tremor, easily excused as a trick of the light by those who didn't know her. But I could see Mother was smiling to herself, smiling like someone with a secret. I apologize, Marcus, for the interruption, but I have had unexpected caller. I was sitting here, admiring the gilliflower, telling you of Mother, when a knock came at the door. I expected Sylvia come to tell me about her male friend or complain about one of the other residents, but it wasn't. Rather, it was Ursula, the filmmaker. I've mentioned her before, surely. Rather, it was Ursula, the filmmaker. I have mentioned her before, surely. I hope I'm not disturbing you, she said. No, I said, setting aside my tampon. I won't stay long. I was in the neighborhood and it seemed silly to head back to London without popping in. You have been at the house, she nodded. We were shooting a scene in the gardens. The light was just perfect. I asked her about the scene, curious as to which part of their story had been reconstructed today. It was a scene of courtship, she said. A romantic scene is actually one of my favorites. She blushed, shook her head so that her frame swung like a curtain. It's silly. I wrote the lines and knew them when they were mere black marks on white paper. Scratched them out and rewrote them 100 times. Yet I was still so moved to hear them spoken today. Oh, you're romantic, I said. I suppose I am. She tilted her head to the side. Ridiculous, isn't it? I didn't know the real hobby hunter at all. I've created a version of him from his poetry, from what other people wrote about him. Yet I find. She paused. Yet I find. She paused, raised her eyebrow self-deprecatingly. I fear. I'm in love with a figure of my own creation. And what is your hobby like? He's passionate, creative, devoted. She leaned her chin on her hand and she considered. But I think what I admire most about him is his hope, such brittle hope. People say he was a poet of disillusionment, but I'm not sure. I've always found something positive in his poems. The way he found possibility amid the horrors he experienced. She shook her head and patted narrowed her eyes. It must have been unspeakably difficult. A sensitive young man thrust into such a devastating conflict. It was a wonder any of them were ever able to resume their lives, pick up where they left the level of love again. I once loved by a young man like that, I said. He went to war and we exchanged letters. It was through those letters I realized how I felt about him and he about me. Was he changed when he came back? Oh yes, I said softly. There were none that came back unchanged. Her voice was gentle. When did you lose him, your husband? It took me a moment to realize what she meant. Oh no, I said. He wasn't my husband. Alfred and I were never married. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought. She mentioned it towards the wedding picture on my dressing table. I shook my head. That's not Alfred. That's John, Ruth's father. He and I were married sure enough. Lord knows we shouldn't have been. She raised her brows in query. John was a terrific waltz and a terrific lover, but not much of a husband. I dare I say I wasn't much of a wife either. I'd never intended to marry, you see. I wasn't at all prepared. Ursula stood, picked up the photograph, threaded her thumb absently along the top. He was handsome. Yes, I said. That was the attraction, I expect. Was he an archaeologist? Was he an archaeologist too? Heavens, no. John was a public servant.